this is somehow, ineffably, going to be helpful to someone. And that's the one that matters. This video is just me going into the nature of trauma and hurt as I see it, inquiring into it and pointing at another way to look at it, that which isn't exactly traditional, but maybe in another sense is traditional before the word. This channel is not about advice or tips or how-tos. It's inquiry and one man's journey in unmasking and revealing how mental health and other quasi-philosophical themes have culminated into pure ineffability and revealed itself to be perfect nonsense. I keep thinking about trauma. Not merely my trauma, the neglect, the loneliness, the rage. No, that's what I'm made to believe is my trauma, but it seems upon reflection trauma is much deeper than what occurred in my childhood. I heard about how the studying of mice revealed how aversive stimuli shown to one generation of mice continue to affect many descendants of that generation. Seems pretty unnecessary to me. Why torture mice when the echoes of sorrow in our own humanity are so apparent? It's very interesting to look at my body and see that it's not my own. I don't mean to invoke some kind of dysmorphia, but rather point out that the hurts I feel for one reason or another are the hurts my great-grandfather felt within the ineffability of his daily life as a result of what happened to his great-great-grandmother and her elders and their elders, and it just keeps going. It's very interesting, I think, to see, without judgment, what neuroses grows out of a species spawned from fearful creatures. How my reaching for the goody is an echoing of my elder's elder who sought comfort and security. How the continuity of sexual satisfaction seems less like lovemaking and more like a distorted pain that I don't see as harmful because everyone says it's fine. I've gaslit myself for years about this. It's not a popular observation, and too often talks about sexual conservation is contaminated by ideologies. But, simply put, noticing sex's right place in my life has been the unequivocal difference between suicidality and a life that feels altogether smooth. Many are interested in inquiring into the place of sex in their life, but if even one person benefits from my honesty, then that's really all that matters. Because it does seem sex is at the heart of the damage this body endures generationally, but it's not a moral judgment. I've simply noticed, like watching a cloud drift in the sky, or one could say, I felt like the touch of a hot stove that I thought was off. That pleasure is no sin, and yet it doesn't equal joy. That pain and pleasure are interrelated, that the actuality of what the phrase mental health points to rests somewhere within this noticing. And there is no way to seek the actuality of that noticing. There's no way to aim at it and arrive there. The only thing that one can do is notice for oneself whether the stove is hot or not. Notice if pleasure and joy are not actually equals. See if there is a quiet cycle of infinite ruin living within the one who seeks endlessly. This freedom to inquire into the actuality of my daily life, without guidance of an expert or a guru, is unlike any conclusion I've ever known. The body just wants to be left alone. That statement points to devastation itself, but before the word. It's devastating because I do everything except let the body flower into itself. I indulge, I eat, I sex, I do, I become. I'm always becoming. I've been raised to become, to aim at an ideal and strive. And where does that leave me? If I'm honest, if I'm free to inquire, it leaves me empty, depressed, anxious, suicidal, confused, in conflict with what I am and what I think I ought to be in order to be content. It's a funny paradox how contentment is never satisfying. I noticed a frog once. It sat on a log for hours. It seemed neutral to the whole thing, life. It seemed wiser than any book I'd ever read. I noticed a human once. Within the micros and the macros of their daily living, they strode toward an ideal their culture said was worthy. They seemed bothered by the whole thing, life. The wisdom of their living, that which could set straight generations of pure nonsense and hurts galore, was not in what they knew, but in what they didn't see. The definition of insanity is not in a book. The definition of insanity, as far as I'm concerned, exists before the word within the mirror of one's daily life. This will likely get misinterpreted and pulled into ideas and concepts. But this is not a metaphor, and I don't need scientists or psychologists or gurus to prove to me that everything and everyone is a mirror. Words get in the way of what I'm pointing at with all this. Maybe I'm not pointing at anything. Maybe my body aches for stillness and these words are its cries. Honestly, that makes perfect nonsense to a nobody like me. The kind of perfection which I have no ability to fathom. That which turns paradox into breath and nonsense into logic. I don't know. I noticed a pattern recently. After experimenting with different forms of indulgence in different activities within daily life, it may sound heady, but nonetheless, it's the heartbeat of what true mental health is revealing itself to be in my life. Forget the words I'm about to share and just look at it cleanly, like you're looking at yourself in the mirror. Prevail with stillness. Relieve frustration. Indulge frustration. Permit ruin. Prevail with stillness. Relieve frustration. Indulge frustration. Permit ruin. This is not something to achieve. This is something to remember.